Everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm really excited about tonight. We get to talk with a remarkable lady called Lauren Clemett. She is the absolute guru about personal branding. She's won awards with her work, and I'm really excited to be talking to her. Welcome, Lauren. Thank you very much for coming along to chat to us about your work.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. Can't wait.
Fabulous. I love the marketing stuff that you do. I've been having a great look at your website. I'm really excited to hear about everything that you've got to say to us. One thing I wanted to start off with, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself? You know, tell us what your story is and how it led you to doing what you were doing.
But I won't take too long because it's late at night and people will fall asleep. And if you're watching the recording, I'd hate you to fall asleep while that happens as well. But one day I was born. No, I won't go back that far. I've been working in advertising and in brand management for about 25 years, probably a little bit longer than that. I won't actually share that, otherwise I'll expose my age and that'll embarrass us all. But I was born in a beautiful place in New Zealand called Hunua, and I went to a little country school. And I was very creative. I loved drawing. I had a pet sheep, which is what most New Zealand kids in the country do. I had a pet sheep called Lucy. My sisters had pet horses. It was a beautiful place to grow up. We didn't lock the cars or the houses. We ran around most of the time with no shoes on. And when it got dark, we went home because we were hungry. So that was the sort of idyllic life that I had as a child. Now, when I was in school, and I can remember, I've still got the school report somewhere. It's typed up. And there's a little bit on it that's been Tipexed out. So that tells you how old that was, well before computers, when typewriters and Gestetner machines were around. I'm really showing my age now, if anyone remembers Gestetner machines and having to have carbon copies and things like that. But it was interesting at school because, and I remember it quite clearly, I had a fabulous English teacher. He was also the principal of the school, Mr. Hacket. And he came to my desk when I was about 8 or 9 years old, and he said to me, look, you're really not getting this reading stuff. You're really not grasping how to read and write properly like the other children, and I don't think you ever are going to get it. I think you've got word blindness, which sounds like a horrible thing to tell an 8 or 9-year-old child, that they're never going to be able to read or write properly like the other kids. And I had this stigma of word blindness. Now, of course, word blindness back then in the early 1980s was dyslexia. He actually was a very good teacher because he knew anything he told Lauren that she couldn't do, I would be downright out to prove him wrong. Negative psychology works really well on me. So he helped me a lot. He encouraged me to read. He found the types of books that I would enjoy. I think The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe were my favourite series, and they were dog-eared in my bedroom. I just read them over and over. But he gave me a book of words every afternoon to take home, and someone would read them out and I would spell them back. And the way I would do that, and if anyone is on the call today and they have dyslexia or they know someone with dyslexia, we all find our own way to do it. But for me, I draw a picture of the word in my brain and I make the shape of the word so that I can remember it. And there's always a couple of words I just will not get. Oddly enough, branding, which is what I do, is one of those words, and I will always spell that wrong. It always jumbles up in the wrong order, which is a bit ironic, really. But that was awesome that he helped me to discover a way of getting around that disability. And in fact, that disability became my greatest asset, because when I became a graphic designer and I was qualified and I started working for advertising agencies, that ability to see the picture of a word in my brain became a really great asset when I was dealing with brands. And I became a really respected production manager. I got to work with amazing agencies like Saatchi and Saatchi, Ogilvy and Mather, Clemenger. Why do they have these crazy names? All these incredible advertising agencies that were world leaders in their day as a production manager, and I got to work with all these amazing brands. So my disability, my dyslexia, my word blindness became something that made me really good at branding. So that's where it all started and how it became a passion for me. And for the last 10 years, I've been really focused on my own business. I had my own advertising agency in New Zealand, and then when I moved to Australia, I really niched into an area called personal branding. Because I got a little bit bored with product branding and manufacturing type branding and so on. I really loved working with people. And what I was seeing in the marketplace was the way that people buy has stayed exactly the same for decades, for eons. The way that the human brain makes purchase decisions, decides who they're going to work with, what product they're going to buy, whose services they're going to buy, what team they're going to be part of, has always been the same. We make decisions based on emotion, and then we justify our decisions with facts. So the ladies on the call tonight, we love those fabulous shoes or that gorgeous dress, and we buy it. And we tell our husbands it was on sale. It was only, it was 50% off or whatever else. So that's how the human brain buys. But the difficulty today, Andrew, I see, is that there are so many different channels now, so many different ways of trying to market and promote your services or your business or your products or anything you're doing to the wider community, that it's a little bit like trying to drink water from a fire hydrant. And it's just completely overwhelming. Yeah, we've got to be on Snapchat and Facebook and Twitter and doing webinars and writing books and podcasts and have a website and run events. And it's just exhausting. And I think people have lost their way a little bit. Back in the day, it used to cost a lot of money to do promotions and marketing and advertising. The internet wasn't around when I was in advertising. You had TV, radio, press, billboards, a bit of direct marketing, maybe a bit of guerrilla marketing, telephone marketing, maybe radio and stuff like that, but nothing like what we've got today. You can start your own TV channel like we've got today, the bit of the Brady Bunch going on. We can do that for free. We can open up a YouTube account, start up your own channel, and because of that, there's just this massive overwhelm on the market. So much competition, so much drivel, I've got to be honest with you, so much not that great content that's out there. I've seen what my teenager is watching these days, and it really is, I'd wonder sometimes, of the future generations, but it's too easy. Do you see what I mean? It's almost too easy to get out there. And the trouble being, if you're not really clear on who you want to attract to your business and what you want to stand out and be known for being the best at, it's going to be really hard to stand out from anybody else, really hard to engage, really easy for people just to swipe right, swipe past, mute you, ignore you, not even notice you. So that's why I think I'm so passionate about personal branding, Andrew, is that there's some really amazing, gifted people out there, and they deserve to get out there. They deserve for the world to know that they exist, but they're just so confused about how to do it.
Yeah, look, that's I couldn't agree with you more, Lauren. And look, I particularly love your story and overcoming the adversity of dyslexia. There's a number of very famous people that have also overcome their adversity of dyslexia, and there's one who's got an incredible personal brand, and someone who I love so dearly, and that's Richard Branson. I love his work. I love the fact that he overcame his own dyslexia to become one of the most successful people on the planet. But before we get ahead of ourselves a little bit, can you explain to me exactly what personal branding is?
Absolutely. Personal branding's it's relatively new to the market, although I've been studying it for a few years now, and it's quite a wide gamut. So there are people at one end of the personal branding industry, if you like, who will talk about writing you a fantastic CV, getting your profile on LinkedIn perfect so you can get a great job, positioning you for a career. They've normally got a recruitment or an HR background, maybe a bit of PR. That's not me. I have worked in the corporate world. I worked for AXA for a while, and it was lovely to be on a contract for a year because there was a light at the end of the tunnel. I could get out of that crazy situation. That's just not me at all. So there's one aspect, is getting yourself on the career ladder, getting yourself a pay rise, doing amazing things. There's people out there who will talk to you about your colours and your image and the way that you behave and so on. Again, they might be photographers, they might be image consultants or makeup artists, they might be people who do PR and media. So they talk about your image. Again, that's not me. I'm very low maintenance. I'm very glad that you often see me in a red dress because that's my brand colour. Makes it really easy for me because I just grab whatever's in the cupboard and put it on and not have to think about it. So I'm happy with that. So my angle of personal branding, and I don't see a lot of people doing this, is really understanding what your core message is, why you're here, why have you continued to do what you're doing. Let's face it, to be an entrepreneur, to be in business for yourself is hard. We would all be much better off if we just went and got a job in that corporate world, worked from 9 till 5. We'd get holidays, we'd get sick pay, we'd get, every now and again we get a raise. We wouldn't have to worry about it on a weekend. But we're all doing this for ourselves, whether it's on the side of your job or growing your own business or whatever you're doing. you've stepped out of your comfort zone and you've started doing something extraordinary. And it's really, really vital that you have a way of explaining what it is you do and why someone should choose to work with you. And unless you get that core skill, you're going to find everything else a little bit hard. And I guess, Andrew, the biggest danger for anybody as an entrepreneur, no matter what sort of business you're in, but more specifically with solo and micro businesses and people who are growing teams and so on, is something I call WOFTAM marketing. I don't know if you've heard of WOFTAM before, WOFTAM?
No, I haven't.
No? Okay, so WOFTAM stands for, and it's a family show, so I'll make this nice and family friendly, waste of flipping time and money. Yeah?
Okay, yeah.
How many of us have done that? Wasted a huge amount of time and money either going to networking events and they're really not the right crowd, or putting an ad somewhere, or doing something on Facebook, or running an event. Hands up, all of us are guilty of it, yeah? Yeah. So instead of doing that WOFTAM, personal branding to me is deciding what is it that I want to be known for? Exactly what sort of people do I want to attract into my business? And where am I going with this? So that you don't get this bright, shiny objectitis going on that makes you decide to flip-flop every 5 minutes and start calling yourself something else. I don't know, there'll be people here on the call tonight who might even have one of these, but I've met people at networking events who have business cards, and on one side they've got one business, and you turn the card over and there's something else on the other side. Is anyone laughing? Is anyone? Yeah,
I've seen that before. Yes.
You've seen it before. So how does it make you feel, Andrew, when you get somebody do that, handing you a business card that's got two different identities?
Well, I don't know what is what, is more to the point. There's no singularity in the aspect. I don't know which one I'm supposed to trust more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is trust. The most expensive currency on the planet right now is trust, because people don't have the time to waste with somebody who can't actually deliver what they promise. So you've got to be more single-minded about it. And I find this a lot. When I first started working in MLM years ago, I had exactly that. I had my business, and on the back of it was this whole thing about aging gracefully and all the rest of it. My before and after shots were on it and so on. And every time I handed it out, I felt to myself, this doesn't feel right. This feels incongruent with who I am. I've got to decide either I'm this or I'm this. Just draw a line in the sand and make it my number one goal to be known as being the best at doing this. And that's what I ended up doing.
Okay, so it's interesting. You mentioned trust as a big thing there. See, for me, and the way I handle my own brand, which is myself, it's about how I look, it's about how I sound, but more importantly, in a lot of ways, it's about how I leave people feeling, how they feel when they're in my presence and when I leave, because it's how they feel is what they remember. What would you say is the most important thing about personal branding? If there was one single thing that was at the absolute top of the list, is it consistency? Is it emotional integrity? Is it trust? What would you say would be the key thing for personal branding in today's market?
I think the overarching theme would be authenticity. We live in the age of the authentic brand. I mean, somebody will Google you. If you act a certain way or behave a certain way in front of the camera, and then when they get to meet you, it's nothing like the person that they've come to expect. Or you take these amazing Instagram, beautiful shots. You've taken 150 shots to get that perfect image. And then when they see you in real life, they don't recognize you. There's that, again, straight away into that, how can I trust this person? They don't seem to be real. We're living in the age of the authentic brand. People will Google you, they'll check you out, they'll find out what you really like. It's just not worth it. There's that saying, fake it till you make it, yeah? And I understand how that works in terms of having self-confidence, and that's a big part of personal branding, is your confidence to be able to go out there and live your brand and stand for something and not be worried about what other people think of you, or the way that, and especially in Australia and New Zealand, we have this lovely tall poppy syndrome, not be worried about people might not like you. That's fine. They're not your audience. There's somebody else out there. But there's something you said, Andrew, about how you make people feel. And Maya Angelou said it the best, didn't she? People will forget what you said. They'll forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And especially with direct selling, the number one tool that you can all be using, which is brilliant because it's completely free, is word of mouth marketing. And personal branding. Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, and started Amazon, talks about your personal brand being what people say about you when you're not in the room. So if you want to get word of mouth marketing really going for your business and just getting people coming to you saying, look, someone over here told me about you and they said I should come and talk to you. And I don't know why, but they just said I should talk to you. If you want that to happen, you're going to have to be real and you're going to have to stand for something. And you're going to have to make it really clear what it is you do and who you help to make it really easy for other people to refer you to others. So word of mouth marketing is just the best. It's free, it's third-party endorsement, and it's somebody's others, sister's uncle's cousin 2 years later saying, go and see Andrew because he's brilliant at this.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And look, that's really important. I agree with you on the word of mouth aspect. Sometimes getting the word of mouth happening takes time. And I think we live in an increasingly impatient world. I know I certainly do. And I'd love to be a superstar straight away, but I know it's going to take me years and years and years of a lot of hard work.
Well, only 3 years. Only 3.
3 years. Oh, okay.
Only 3 years. That's all it'll take to build your personal brand. It took me 4, Andrew. I call it ironicide. Yeah, it's ironic that the thing that you should do really well yourself, you're crap at. It's like the plumber with the leaky tap. It's ironic. It's ironicide. And it took me 4 years because the first year I got it all wrong. And I had to start from scratch. I had a coach who said to me, this isn't right. You've got no background in this. You're trying to promote something that you're not really, that's nothing to do with your life. What are you doing? And I sat down and went, oh, actually, you're right. It sounded good, looked great on paper. But, it was all this Top Gun and jet pilot stuff and all the rest of it. He said to me, so you've been in the Air Force? And I went, no. So you fly jet fighter planes? No, I've never been in a jet fighter. So he went like, that's never going to work. So there were lots of tears and frustration because I'd created a whole brand and a whole online program and done all this sort of work. And I had to start from scratch. So no, it only takes about 3 years, Andrew. So that's the good news. Don't think that's bad news. 3 years.
That's fabulous news for me.
That's to get to the point where you've got people, as you say, referring you, asking you to speak in front of the media, asking you to be on their webinars, on their podcasts, writing books with them. It takes about that long for you to get that established brand out there. And it does come down to consistency, Andrew. You were right with that. Once you've niched it, once you've got that, this is what I want to be known for, this is what I'm going for. That's why I always talk about setting a 3-year goal. Where do you want to be in 3 years' time? Who do you want to be on? Who do you want to have on your team? Where do you want to be living? Who do you want to be working with? Who do you want to get referrals from? What do you want to be known as? If you were going to go and put yourself up for an award in 3 years' time, what would it be for? Would it be as an innovator or an entrepreneur or giving back to the community or helping women? Or what would it be for? So plan those 3 years ahead because it'll help keep you consistent.
Yeah, very good. And I look, consistency is a really big thing for me as well in making sure that everything that I'm doing and delivering is consistent. And I know for network marketers as it is as well. Can you tell me a little bit about presentation? There's one thing I've noticed in the network marketing world is when we go to conferences or when we go to events, we all dress up and we look nice. But when we're doing things on a one-to-one basis or in a more casual environment, we tend to, and I see this quite a little bit too often for my own comfort levels, people don the tracksuit pants and the sloppy joes and they just kind of really dress down. And I don't know whether that's clever marketing in the fact that it is relatable because of its authenticity, or whether it's just a bit of sloppy personal, grooming, so to speak. What are your thoughts on that? It's an interesting
question. And again, I'm not a wardrobe specialist at all, but I do relate this to having confidence in who you are and actually getting over the fact that you want people to like you. It's not about that. It really isn't about trying to get people to like you. It's about deciding what sort of people you want to work with. And if you want to work with people who hang out in their tracky dacks and don't dress up too much and then do that. Then just be that. Be yourself. Be comfortable with the people you want to be with. But if you want to go and you like dressing up and you like wearing great clothes, then go and find those people. It's all about deciding who you want to be with. And it's funny, Andrew, the first chapter of my book that I wrote talks about knowing yourself. And in that little area in Hunua where I grew up at a YMCA camp. So there were 300 and something, 50 different children would turn up every Saturday of the school holidays. And they'd be there for a week and then they'd leave on the Saturday morning and we'd have a couple of hours to ourselves and then another load of kids would arrive in the afternoon. And what I decided when I looked back on how I behaved as a kid, because a lot of people say to me, gosh, Lauren, you've got so much confidence, you can just talk to anyone. How do you do that? It's how I grew up. I grew up talking to different people, whether it was another homesick kid or a leader or a staff member. I could talk to anybody. But what I discovered when I went back and looked at that was I would mold myself to be comfortable with that person, to make them comfortable with me. So I would act like the little kid when I was talking to a little kid. And if I wanted to talk to a leader or junior leader, I'd be more like a teenager. If I was talking to a staff member, I'd be a bit more adult. So I was molding my own personality to suit other people, which is a skill, I guess. It's awesome to have that skill, but it's not really authentic. And it took me a long time to figure out that I didn't have to mold myself to be like other people. I could just be me. And if 50% of the people don't like me, then that's fine. Because there's another 50% of people out there who think I'm fantastic. And that's awesome.
Yeah, look, it's fascinating. I love what you're talking about. They call it the chameleon energy, where people, it's where people do mold themselves. And some people are very, very good at it. But you're right, it can certainly lack authenticity and a real true pureness to one's own self. And
I think you lose yourself, Andrew. I think you lose yourself. I think you lose yourself.
Yeah.
And the one biggest asset you have, especially in network marketing, is yourself. You've got to look after yourself. You're number one. You've got to look after your health, your mindset, your confidence. You've got to plan for yourself and your family and support yourself. You can't beat yourself up all the time, and you can't try to be something that you're not. It's really important just to be you.
I agree. Thank you for your thoughts on that too. Can I ask you, for anybody who wanted to create a personal brand, and it's something that I went through last year, how does someone get started in creating a good personal brand? Where is the starting point, and what sort of things do we need to consider?
Yeah. Well, the first step I tend to take people, and I've got a award-winning process, and this seems to have been the easiest place for people to think about it. It's much like what we've been talking about already. I call it the 3 R's of personal branding, and if you want to write these down, go for it. If you're listening to this in a car somewhere, try and remember it and write it down later. Don't crash. The 3 R's of personal branding. The first one is recognition. And like you said before, Richard Branson is now recognised for what he does best. And more importantly, his brand, the Virgin brand, has his personality running through it, his sense of fun, his sense of, getting behind the underdog. Looking after your staff and your team and let them look after the customers. He's all about making sure people have a good time. So his personal brand comes through his brand. He's recognised as being innovative, and he's actually really shy. He doesn't like public speaking, but he's had to push himself out to do those sorts of things. So what do you want to be recognised? Is it for fun? Is it for leadership? Is it support? Is it organisation? Is it that you're really knowledgeable? Is it that you're really driven? So what do you want to be recognised for? I mean, if you've got children, you'll know they'll recognise the little corner of the golden arches of McDonald's and they'll want to go there. They won't even need to see the whole brand, just that little bit, and they recognise it. So if we go supermarket shopping, we pick stuff off the shelf based on the colour of the packet. We recognise, we don't even have to stop and look at it. It's just like, yep, that's our brand of tea or whatever it is we buy. So there's a recognition factor. So you've got to work on that and spend 3 years building that recognition factor. So that's the first R. The second R is reputation. And that's what we talked about before. What do we want people to say about you when you're not in the room? So what do you want to be referred to as? Yeah, what words do you want people to use when they say, do you know what? There's this amazing woman, her name's Karen, and she told me the other day that this, and this, and I think you should go and talk to her. If you can give people the words that you'd like to have said about you, that you've got loads of energy, or you know what you're talking about with nutrition, or you're incredibly driven, or whatever it is, if you can figure out that reputation factor and start using those words when you describe yourself, when you talk about what you're doing, when you talk about your team, and when you present yourself, that'll start to just become a bit of an overflow. It'll be the thing people remember about you, and they'll recognise you for it. And the last R, so we've got recognition, reputation. The last R is respect. And that's all about authenticity and consistency. I mean, I know we've just had the Commonwealth Games here in Australia, the Royals are out here, but they have a bit of respect. I know it's not always the greatest, they don't always do the right thing, but I mean, the Queen's on our money, she's on our stamps, she's part of the ethos of the Commonwealth. So there's a earned respect, and she's been consistent. She's been the same monarchy that we've expected for years. We might laugh about what they do stupidly and so on, but they've been consistent. So I once had a business card, and I've got it hidden away somewhere. I should have it more handy. It arrived in my mailbox one Christmas, and it had on the top of it, cheap man and ute hire, available 7 days a week, 24 hours, and it had on it that he did. He could take you down to the doctors. He could do moving for you. He had a ute hire. He could go and mow your lawn. He could do gardening. He could take you to the shops. He had a bouncy castle, 50s, 60s rock and roll band. He did Elvis impersonations. He had a jumpy castle. He was a DJ, and he was cheap, and he was available, and here was his number. Yeah. Now, you just wouldn't trust that guy. You'd know that he wouldn't be very good at any one of those things. But what if he just chose, I don't know, to mow lawns dressed as Elvis? Yeah, and that's all he did. He would get on the news. He would grow a business. He'd have Marilyn mowing the lawn next door, and he'd have, someone else doing, he'd have characters all around the world in his franchise for him. I don't know. There's a business model. But do you know what I mean? If he just chose to be respected as being the best Elvis impersonating lawn mowing guy, then he'd be away. But he just has this FOMO. He wants to be everything to everyone. There's a saying in New Zealand, you can't help every Mary in the dairy. Yeah. And if you try to do that, if you try to help everybody you come across, and I know I've met amazingly successful direct sellers who talk about the 3 foot rule. Anyone who comes within 3 foot, they'll ask them about what they're doing and all the rest of it. Now, I understand that, but the tip I have and the big learning I had when I was working myself with direct marketing was, yes, that's great. Talk to everybody. But the number one reason you're talking to them isn't to sell to them. It's to find out where they're at. It's just to say to them, look, tell me a bit about yourself, find out a bit about them. You mentioned you've got this problem. Have you thought about doing something about it? Now, most humans won't say to you no. They'll just give you an excuse. Oh, no, my doctor's sorting it out. Or, oh, I've got this thing at home and I use that. Or, oh, no, I've got my own business. I'm too busy. They'll just tell you no in a pleasant, nice way. But every now and again, you get somebody who will say to you, yeah, do you know something? Because I really want to get rid of this problem. I'm sick of it. What could you help me with? And those are the people who've just said to you, I'm interested. So it's not about helping every Mary in the dairy. It's just finding out which people are interested and then sharing with them what you have. It's not about trying to be that mad, one-arm paper hanger and trying to help everybody and do everything. Just be Elvis mowing the lawn.
Okay, so what you're suggesting is choose what's important to you, choose what's passionate to you, what you're passionate about, and just be that and do it authentically. And I'm assuming also have quite a bit of fun with it and everything like that as well.
Well, that's the same with any business. We would give up if it wasn't fun. Seriously, we're mad. Who was it that said? Was it what's his name from Microsoft said? Entrepreneurs are mad. They're crazy. Why do they do this? You would be insane to start your own business. But here we all are, and we do it because we love it. But like you said, we're passionate about helping people. There's something that we love about what we do. We're driven to succeed. And actually, when we look at what we're doing, and you think about where we are in life, we're not living in Syria, thank goodness. We've got a pretty good life and we're enjoying what we're doing. So it's not too bad.
I agree, absolutely. And, it's an interesting thing. Thinking about moving forward with anything that I do, I try to sort of sit back and think, well, if it's something I personally enjoy doing, I'll often do it myself. But even then, there's some things that are often best to get professional help with. And I'm not necessarily talking about sitting on the couch and talking to a shrink, although if you need that, that's great. More to the point, it's about, for instance, social marketing is something that I'm not up to speed with. So I found myself a good social marketer who's helping me with my social marketing platform. And now we're starting to see some movement in that, which is really, really good. Is personal branding something you would recommend to people that they actually seek professional help on? Because I can just imagine a lot of people, it's kind of a little bit like the Internet of Things back in the 90s. Everybody's going, what's this crazy, interweb stuff that they're talking about? Is that a service that you actually provide? Or is it more something that you actually promote through the books and everything like that you do?
It's about 14 questions in one there, Andrew. I'll try and answer all of them, which is really good. Yes, it is something I do, is the answer to your last question. And I have an online program. I've recorded loads of video tutorials. I have live and online workshops, and I have programs that I work with people through. So there's a number of things. You can do it on your own, but I think I was testament to the fact that when I tried to do it for myself, it took me 4 years. It's just going to take you a bit longer if you want to do it all on your own. And the reason for that is you're just too close to it. I was too close to my own brand. I couldn't see the wood for the trees. And it took a coach to point out to me where I'd gone wrong. And I've got an awesome mindset coach. I've had a number of business coaches over the years that have helped me. And I still have people, and I agree with you, you should never worry about the stuff you're not good at. I've got a social marketing person. She does all the stuff for me as well. I could do social marketing if I want to, but it's not my core strength. My core strength is getting out there talking to people and speaking and running events and doing amazing things and workshops and working with people. I could sit forever, like you say, on the couch, tweeting and posting things on Instagram and so on, but I wouldn't enjoy it. I'd do it, but I wouldn't enjoy it. And let's face it, when you run your own business, and it's 10 o'clock at night, the kids have gone to bed, now is your 10 minutes to get something done for your business, what are you going to want to do? So if you love podcasting, it'll be that. If you love talking on a video, it'll be that. If you love writing, you'll write an article. If you love ringing people, you'll ring and leave messages, or you'll write emails or whatever else. You'll find something to do that you love first. So don't panic when you procrastinate about something. It's because you don't do it well. And you should really, as you say, Andrew, carve it off and get somebody else to do it. Partner up with people, which is a really cool way to do it. I've seen a lot of people in direct selling who've partnered up with people with different core strengths. There's actually a really cool exercise I take people through about communication styles. I don't know whether anyone's done this themselves, or disc profiling people might have done. I talk about it as communication styles because it's about how people like to be communicated with. And it's especially a fundamental aspect with selling, especially when you're positioning yourself as the go-to specialist. So there's only 4 personality or personal communication styles: eagles, owls, peacocks, and doves. So if you can remember those, you may have heard of these before. Some people do them with colours and so on. I do them with birds because it just makes me laugh. It's quite funny. So Eddie the eagle, that's me. I'm driven. Don't worry me with social things or facts or figures. Just tell me what is it I've got to do, and I'm going to go and do it. Don't get in my way. A lot of people find me I guess abrupt sometimes, but they find I don't stop and ask if people are okay. I just say, right, we're doing this. I don't stop to see if people would like to go there. I'm just telling you we're going there. So born leaders, driven, impatient, and too quick most of the time for people. So that's eagles. And some people are laughing. I can see you're probably identifying yourself as, oh my God, I'm an eagle. Oliver the owl. Oliver the owl is facts and figures. Look, I'll make a decision once I've got all the facts in front of me, and I can sit and I can absorb it for about half an hour, maybe a bit longer. I might talk to a few people. That awful thing that most direct sellers hate to hear, I'm going to go and talk to my husband about it, or I'm going to go and talk to my accountant about it. That awful thing you hate to hear. It's like, oh my God, they're going to put them off. It's just the way they like to work. You need to give them space. Give them the facts. Give them the details. Let them make their decision. Come back to them with a few more facts. You can never have enough information. So give them all the facts. But if you don't identify that that's an owl and you give an eagle lots of facts, I'm just going to go, what? I can't be bothered reading this. So you need to figure out who they are. Peacocks, Percy Peacock, they're the fun of the party. They're the life and soul of the party. They'll tell stories till the cows come home. They don't want to know about the meeting because they're too busy networking. When they present, they'll tell lots of case studies, and they'll forget about the facts and figures because that's boring. And they hate doing things over and over and over and over again. They get bored very, very quickly, peacocks. And if you tell them just follow the system, they'll go, but I don't like following systems. I want to do it my way because it's more fun doing it my way. Everyone else is laughing. Yeah, lots of peacocks here, which is awesome. And the last one's the doves. And the doves are awesome. And I normally scare the pants off them because I'm an eagle. But doves are amazing because they care. They support you. They work in the background and bring everybody together. They want to know that everybody's got what they need. Everybody knows what the plan is. Let's not change things too quickly. Let's make sure that everybody's on board before we make a decision. I just want to make sure that everything's clear. And by the way, is there a guarantee that this is going to work? So that's your doves, yeah? So there's only 4 types. And I don't know if it's on my website, but certainly in my book, there's a little test. that you can go through and find out what your dominant personal communication style is, your natural way of communicating. And there's also some information there on how you can identify it in others. So that when you are meeting with people and networking and getting to know them, you can ask them a few key questions and you go, right, you're an owl. Okay, so let me tell you how long our company's been around for. And let me tell you the ingredients in our product, yeah? They'll love all that. But if it's a dove, it'll be, well, look, why don't we come sit over here quietly where we're not in everybody's way, and you can ask me lots of questions and take your time, and I'll talk to you about the team and how we support each other. Does this all make sense?
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, so if you've got that training, I think that was probably one of the most important, valuable trainings I could ever give to people when I was working with teams in direct marketing, was just understand who you're dealing with and learn it really quickly so that you can communicate in a way that makes them feel really comfortable.
I agree, Lauren. In fact, I actually love that particular exercise too with the birds. It's something that I've used myself several times in working in classrooms. And it's a great way to get people to understand who's sitting at their group tables and again, the people that they're working with at work and everything.
I've used it at conferences. There were like 100 and something people at a conference I spoke at, and we did the exercise before they arrived. So I already knew what they were, and we divided them up into their groups, and the way they behaved, even into forming the groups, was just, the owls were too busy trying to work out how long have we got and who are we going to choose as our leader. And, the eagles were over there having a beer, didn't really care. It was just like, what are we going to do? I don't care. Let's talk about business. It was just hilarious to see people in groups of these particular styles working together. It was awesome.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. Now, we're getting close to running out of time. So I just wanted to sort of close out with two things. First of all, I was going to ask you, do you have any, call it hints or tricks that can help us with our personal branding? Some sort of little secret that nobody tends to know about, certainly not if we're not working in the industry.
You want the secret sauce.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Well, you've got the 3 R's, which I don't see anybody doing. The other thing that you can do really quickly, and you can just draw it in front of you. When I grew up in the bush, there were 2 things that we used to use all the time, was a map and a compass. And on their own, they're particularly useless. So a map is your marketing and a compass is your brand. But if you put them together, you can go forward with your personal brand really quickly. So if you draw a compass on the page in front of you, it doesn't need to be elaborate, just the crosshairs like this with north at the top, south at the bottom, west on the left and east on the right. Start at west, which is the W, and think about what is the problem that you solve. So if it's freedom and choice, that's fantastic, but what does that do for people? How does that problem that you solve, that you get rid of, not having freedom, not having choice, not knowing if you're going to have an income, not knowing if you're going to be healthy, all those sorts of things, all the problems somebody might have, when you solve them, what happens to their life? What's the transformation that takes place? Because if you can figure out what their problem is, their real problem, not just what you can do for them, but what their problem is that you can solve and take away, and how their life would look if they didn't have that problem, and you can explain that to people, you've got a much more engaging way of communicating with people. So West is all about what's the problem that you solve, and it might be more than one. Then go across to East. East is the execution. It's the how. So what's the process that you go through? And each one of you will be different at the way you present, the way that you connect with people, the way that you talk to them about the opportunities or the products or services that you have. But what's the process that you use? And what is part of that is unique to you? Your story or your background, your brand story is so important. So is there a particular way that you do certain things that is unique to you? And what's the process that, if you've been in this business, if you've been growing your own business for about 5 years or more, you're probably in an area I call unconscious competence. You just do stuff without thinking about it. So take the time to list it down. What is it? How is it that you take people through this process of change? And what's the outcome and so on? Because that'll really help you to identify why they should choose you to work with. Then go to South, draw a line through the S and turn it into a $sign. That's really easy. It's all about the value that you offer. What's the real value that you offer? If somebody gets to work with you, how does that change their life? What's the outcome for them? What really happens? What transpires when they start working with you as a team and you start coaching them and helping them along, or whatever it is you're doing? What happens to their life what happens to their outlook, to their mindset, to the way they feel about themselves, their confidence, whatever it is that you give them. What's the real value? Is it fun? Is it excitement? Is it someone who can lead you or support you? How does that happen? What goes on in their life when they've got someone like that in their life and working with them? And lastly, go to the north. That's all about your true north, your why, your purpose, your passion, the reason you're doing what you're doing, the reason that you're standing up for something. What really drives you? What makes you so driven to continue doing this, to shining a light for other people? And why? What is it that maybe other people are doing in the industry that you really don't like, that you are dead set against? Often with a personal brand, it's what you don't do that defines you better than what you do. Yeah. So really think about what drives you and your passion. If you can put all of those things together, that's the formulation of your brand. That's how you can start to pull together all of your, and it keeps you focused so that you know, this is what I want to be well known, well paid and wanted for. This is where I'm going with my future. And you can start to think about then where I'm going to go for my networking events, how I'm going to market and promote myself, what the message is going to be.
Thanks so much, Lauren. It's been such a pleasure having you here. What a wealth of information. Now, guys and girls, if you want to get some more of Lauren, because I know I certainly do, you can go to ultimatebusinesspropeller.com and check out all of her details and what she does. You can also go to sellingyourbooks.com as well if you want to grab a hold of, what is it, up to 5 books already or something like that? Lauren, how many books have you released?
I've written about 8 best-selling books, some in my name, some in a pen name. So it's quite fun as a dyslexic person to write books. No,
that's great. Look, I'm definitely going to get on there tonight, I think, and order that latest book of yours, I think, which is Selling You. Is that the latest one you've done? Fabulous.
Yes, absolutely. I've got a couple more in the pipeline, but that's the one that's available at the moment.
That's great. And everybody, if you go to ultimatebusinesspropeller.com, you can also give Lauren your email details, and she can send you a bit of information over time as well through subscribing to her site. Lauren, was there any last things that you wanted to tell the world before we signed out?
I think just one thing really to do with personal branding specifically is a lot of people hold themselves back from really getting out there and standing out, because we have this, some people call it the imposter syndrome. I call it the itty bitty shitty committee. Yeah, that goes on up here all the time. Yeah, that's telling you you're not very good. Someone's going to find out you're not very good at this. You're a fraud. You don't know what you're talking about. You're hopeless at social media, whatever it is. I think sometimes we just need to tell those guys to just be a little bit quiet and believe in ourselves. But the one thing I always talk about is, and when I was in New York recently, I got to go down to Washington, D.C., and I met the statue of one of my most amazing idols in personal branding, Eleanor Roosevelt. And she said, the only person who has the right to make you feel bad about yourself is you. Yeah. So I've updated that and said, the only person that you need to convince that you're good enough is you. If you can convince yourself that you have what it takes, that you have amazing gifts and talents to share with the world, then nothing will stop you from getting out there and just becoming the standout person that you should be. Whether that's on the stage, or if you're introverted and don't want to speak, great, but you will be who you are. You'll just be the authentic you, and nothing will stop you from going and being the best you can be.
Thank you, Lauren. That's some seriously sound advice, and advice I can definitely relate to. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure having you on board. And I really look forward to getting a copy of your book and getting through it and actually improving my own personal brand as well.
Awesome. Well, look, thank you for having me on, Andrew. It's been an absolute pleasure. And like I say, if you've got any questions, just email them through on that website. You'll find lots of opportunities to get in touch with me. So cool.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lauren. Have a fabulous week.
Cheers, guys.